Investigators discovered the last phone number that Tyler Robinson spoke to before the shooting. Investigators believed they had pieced together almost every element of Charlie Kirk's tragic death. The motive was outlined, the weapon identified, even the suspect's own writings laid bare. Each clue seemed to bring them closer to closure. Yet hidden in Tyler Robinson's phone records was something that unsettled the narrative. Just hours before the shooting, he made one final call to a number that had never appeared in his history before. Who answered that call? Was it a confidant, a stranger, or someone whose involvement has yet to surface? And why has this single moment raised fresh doubts about what truly unfolded that night? Tonight, we unravel the mystery of that final call, the context, the gaps it exposes, and why investigators now believe it may carry more significance than anyone first imagined. Before we dive into today's story, kindly subscribe to our Shadow Detective channel if you believe in fighting for justice. Kindly help us reach 300 subscribers, and we believe that with energy and support, we will achieve it. Let's build this community that refuses to stay silent, to stop asking the hardest question of all. But why? Every view, every comment, and every subscriber is a stand against silence and a step toward truth for those who can't fight for themselves. Investigators thought they had assembled nearly the entire puzzle of Charlie Kirk's shocking death. The suspect was in custody. The weapon had been recovered. Even handwritten notes appeared to outline a motive. To many, the case looked almost settled, but when detectives dug deeper into Tyler Robinson's phone, they uncovered something that shifted the narrative. Hidden in the call logs was a single entry that stood out: one outgoing call, placed just hours before the shooting, to a number never before connected to Robinson. It wasn't saved under a contact. It didn't appear in his usual history. It was an anomaly, and with that discovery, new questions emerged. Who was on the receiving end of that call? Was it meaningless, a passing conversation, or was it intentional, a final exchange before tragedy struck? That one small detail has unsettled the entire case, raising more doubts than certainties. And tonight we dive into the mystery of that call, its significance, how investigators followed the lead, and why it may hold the key to uncovering what really happened. But to understand the weight of that final phone call, we need to step back to the moments that brought us here. On September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk, conservative activist and founder of Turning Point USA, arrived at Utah Valley University for a scheduled speaking event. He stood outside engaging with the crowd, debating with students, but in an instant, the scene turned to tragedy. From the rooftop of a nearby building, a single shot rang out. The bullet struck Kirk in the neck, and despite immediate medical efforts, the wound proved fatal. Just 33 hours later, investigators announced a suspect, 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson of Washington, Utah. He was arrested and charged with aggravated murder, along with multiple related offenses. The rapid turnaround made it appear, at least on the surface, that the case was cut and dry. The evidence seemed overwhelming. The rifle was traced back to Robinson's grandfather. His DNA was found on the trigger, and beneath his computer keyboard, investigators uncovered a handwritten note with chilling intent: "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Digital evidence only added to the narrative. In text messages to his roommate, Robinson vented his growing anger. He spoke of reaching a breaking point. His words carried the weight of someone who believed violence was the only path left. With so much evidence already in hand, it was easy for the public to believe the puzzle was nearly solved. Motive, method, and means, everything appeared to line up seamlessly. But investigators knew better. Cases like this are rarely that straightforward. And when they began combing through Robinson's digital footprint, his texts, searches, and call history, they uncovered something that didn't fit. Detectives expected his phone records to mirror the story they already believed: familiar calls to his roommate, scattered messages to friends, and the digital traces of anger that seemed to build toward the attack. For the most part, that's exactly what they found. The logs were routine, ordinary, almost mundane, until one entry broke the pattern. Just hours before the shooting, Robinson dialed a number investigators had never seen before. It wasn't saved under a name. It didn't match any of his usual contacts. and it had never once appeared in his history leading up to that week. It was an outlier, one detail that refused to be dismissed. For experienced investigators, anomalies like this are never overlooked. An unexplained call, an unusual message, any one of them can shift the direction of a case. Was this simply a wrong number, an accidental connection, or was it intentional, an act chosen in the final hours before tragedy unfolded? At first, detectives didn't even know who the number belonged to. That uncertainty only made the discovery more urgent. In criminal investigations, timing is everything, and this call was placed at a moment when every action, every decision mattered. According to digital records, the call happened late in the evening, just hours before Robinson left his home. It wasn't buried in the noise of dozens of other entries. It stood apart, isolated, at a critical point in the timeline. For investigators, that made it even more significant. Calls made so close to the commission of a crime often reveal glimpses of a suspect's state of mind. Was Robinson reaching out for reassurance, seeking validation, or was this something darker, a final step in setting his plan into motion? Whatever the reason, its place on the timeline made it impossible to overlook. This wasn't just a phone number anymore. It was a clue, anchored to the very hours when choices were being made and when the chain of events was about to begin. For investigators, that meant only one thing: they needed to know who picked up on the other end. But identifying the recipient wasn't straightforward. The number offered nothing at first glance. It wasn't saved in Robinson's contacts. It wasn't tied to his roommate, his family, or even a casual acquaintance. That absence alone made it stand out. Most of his calls could be explained. This one could not. Tracing it required more than a quick check. Investigators had to lean on phone carriers, issue subpoenas, and cross-reference subscriber records. It was a process that demanded time, but it was unavoidable. And while they waited, the questions only multiplied. Who was on the other end of that line? A confidant, aware of Robinson's growing anger but silent in the face of it, or an unsuspecting stranger, someone blindsided, like everyone else, when the news of the shooting broke? For investigators, either possibility carried weight. If the call reached someone unaware, it could still shed light on Robinson's mindset, his tone, his urgency, even the words he chose. But if the person knew more than they let on, the case suddenly became more complicated than it first appeared. In criminal investigations, a single unanswered phone call can alter the entire narrative, and this one was beginning to do exactly that. When word of the unexplained call surfaced, it quickly spread beyond the investigation. Reporters seized on it, framing the discovery as a potential missing piece, the detail that could hint at a larger untold story. Speculation grew. Some feared it suggested accomplices or outside influence. Was Robinson truly acting alone, or was there someone quietly pulling strings in the background? Others argued it could be something mundane, perhaps a number belonging to someone entirely unaware of what was about to unfold. Authorities chose their words carefully. They withheld the identity linked to the number and refused to speculate publicly. But their silence only deepened suspicion. If the call was insignificant, why draw attention to it at all? And if it carried weight, why keep the truth hidden? In the court of public opinion, unanswered questions can be just as persuasive as hard evidence. Online debates ignited, theories spread rapidly, and soon that mysterious phone call became one of the most dissected aspects of the investigation, even before prosecutors had the chance to address it formally. One thing, however, was undeniable: this single record had shifted the conversation. The focus was no longer only on motive or opportunity. It now centered on whether Tyler Robinson truly stood alone in the hours before the shooting. For investigators, the call wasn't just an odd detail, it was a possible key to the entire case. In criminal investigations, every move made in the lead-up to a crime is placed under a microscope. A single call, especially one made in the final hours, can reveal motive, hesitation, or even coordination. Prosecutors know this, defense attorneys know it too, and juries never forget it. If Robinson reached out as part of a plan, it could underscore premeditation, evidence that he didn't act impulsively, but deliberately. If instead the call carried signs of panic or emotion, it could suggest a suspect torn by doubt, grasping for answers, or perhaps even searching for a reason not to follow through. Either way, the significance remained clear. That single call offered a glimpse into Robinson's state of mind at the most crucial moment on the timeline. It was no longer just a line of data, it had become narrative evidence. Investigators began treating it with the same gravity as the rifle, the handwritten note, and the digital trail he left behind. Because in cases like this, one unexplained number has the power to shift not only the investigation, but also the course of the courtroom that follows. But beyond the trials, beyond the forensics and the paperwork, lies another dimension, the human one. For Charlie Kirk's family, and for the thousands who gathered at his memorial, that last phone call isn't just evidence. It lingers as a haunting reminder that in those final hours there may have been a moment, however fleeting, when the outcome could have changed. If Robinson dialed someone close to him, could different words on the other end have stopped what followed? And if it was a stranger, could they unknowingly have heard the voice of a man standing on the edge of a decision that would alter countless lives? For Erica Kirk, who stood before a stadium of mourners and chose the path of forgiveness, the unanswered call raises painful but inevitable questions. Did Tyler Robinson truly act in isolation, or was there a fleeting moment of connection, a conversation, however brief, before everything unraveled? In tragedies like this, it is often the smallest details, hidden deep within digital records, that carry the heaviest weight. They remind us that behind every headline lies not just a crime, but a chain of choices, words, and missed chances that can never be taken back. And so we return to that final call. One number, dialed in the hours before the shooting, continues to linger as one of the most unsettling threads in the case. Investigators can map evidence, trace signals, and reconstruct timelines. But what they cannot always uncover is intent, the why behind a decision, the meaning inside a moment, or the reason a person steps down one path instead of another. Who was on the other end of that call? Was it someone completely unaware, left to carry the burden of knowing an ordinary conversation is now tied to an extraordinary crime? Was it a confidant who might have seen the warning signs but never spoke out? Or was it something far more ordinary, an unanswered dial tone, a call that went nowhere, but now feels like it could mean everything? For the public, those questions may never find a clear answer. For the families, the silence left in place of truth may echo louder than the facts themselves. And for investigators, that number will forever remain on the record, a single entry in a log that could prove critical, or remain an unsolved fragment of the story. In the end, this case reminds us that justice is not built solely on what we uncover. It is also shaped by what remains hidden. And sometimes it is the smallest details, the final words, the last messages, the one phone call that leave behind the heaviest questions of all.